We welcome Amy to the call-in show. Except Amy is here live with me in my bedroom/studio. Amy, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, Danny.
You live near me. You live in California, in the LA area.
Yeah, I'm in Sherman Oaks, so it's about 25 minutes to your house.
And I gotta give you props. You've really done your makeup here in a way, I haven't seen it that much in person. I've seen it on TikTok. You've got like multiple colors on your eyelashes. I don't know the word for that. Eyebrows.
Eyelids.
Eyelids, they call that.
Yeah.
Why do they call the lid, really? Anyway. And is this normally, you aware this is being filmed, but are you normally kind of?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I go with very colorful, as everybody can see who's watching the video. I am very freckled. So if I try
That's not that obvious right now because you're wearing makeup.
If I try to do the like more natural look.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look like anything. Which,
right.
Like on some girls, like they do all the contouring of the cheeks and it creates this like really like slick look. But you can't really contour over freckles too well.
Okay.
So, and my eyes are one of my best features. And so,
true.
And my lashes are very pale. So,
there we go.
Hence, I do the fun eyeshadows.
I love it. And so you were also saying last time that you are the one in charge of blowing the car up or not, because you're a producer, but you're not doing that now. Now you're in post with some movies.
Yes. Okay. So I have several projects in development and several that are in post-production. There are 2 movies coming out this summer that you can go to the theater and see.
Wow,
or rent
that's so cool.
On demand.
What are they? Are they big movies? Do we all know that?
So the movie coming out, I think it's July 14th.
Okay.
Is The Flood. And so it's directed by Brandon Slagle and stars Louis Mandylor, Nikki Whalen, and Casper Van Dien.
Okay.
It is about a flood in Louisiana and a prison transport bus that has to stop at a local sheriff's station for the night because of the flood, and gators get into
I like it.
The prison.
We love a good gator. Prisoners versus gators.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's got the whole prison breakout kind of feel to it. It's got the natural disaster. It's got the creatures. It has creatures in it. Oh yeah, it has gators.
Oh, gators. Got it. Well, I'm sorry because my mind is on in Halo. Do you remember Halo? The creatures were called the Flood.
Correct.
There was the aliens, and the aliens were the aliens, but the Flood were more like a viral.
You have the Banished, you have the aliens.
You have the Banished.
Oh, yeah, the Banished are in the later games.
You kept playing.
No, I've played all of the Halos. I love it.
Well, it's great to have you once again here, Amy. We're going to cover this. We thought this sounded juicy. So here we go, folks. AITA for stealing my sister's thunder on her engagement party. My 23F sister, 25F, recently got engaged to her fiance, 26M, after they'd been dating for a year. A little fast. Their engagement party was basically a dinner with friends and close relatives, and my sister went all out on the food. To her, marriage is a huge deal. And she's had her whole wedding and married life planned out since we were kids. That's a little bit much, sis.
I mean, the dream is common amongst kids. You imagine
fair. That's fair. It's the dream.
It changes as you grow.
I've never felt the same excitement for weddings and kids and such things, even though I do want it at some point. And since I'm a lesbian in a homophobic family, I long ago accepted that a big fancy wedding with my father walking me down the aisle isn't part of the plan. This doesn't sadden me much, but my sister, who's the only one in my family who knew about my sexuality, has been convinced that I'm jealous of her since she started dating her fiancé. Dinner started out great, but after the main course, my family and my relatives started asking about my dating life. It was harmless questions at first, such as, when are you getting a boyfriend? And why aren't you dating? And I saw that boy hitting on you yesterday. It annoyed me, but my sister seemed even more annoyed. After dessert, when the alcohol started kicking in, the questions got a little out of hand. My mom said, I can't believe your sister got engaged first. You have been more social. And my grandma commented on that I was the more attractive sister. Look at you. You're the hot one, damn it. My sister obviously got hurt by this. And I caught her crying in the bathroom at one point. I tried to talk to her, but all she said was, "Happy, you've made my engagement all about you," and then avoided me for the rest of the party. So this is the part where I might have been the bad guy. After my aunt asked when I would get a boyfriend for the millionth time and I'd had my millionth glass of wine, I told her I'd never get a boyfriend, but when I got a girlfriend, she'd be the first to know. I then stormed out of the apartment, knocked a glass over, and took a cab home. My phone started blowing up, but I turned off notifications and went to bed. One of me and my sister's mutual friends who was on the party told me the next day that a wild discussion about what I said to my aunt was held and the party was cut short. My sister locked herself in her room crying and everyone went home. I've now been blocked by most of my family and relatives. My sister sent me a nasty text about how me coming out on her party stole her thunder, and my mother no longer considers me family. I'm not trying to make up excuses, but I definitely could have been a more supporting sister, but I just want to know, AITA.
I thought this was going to go in a totally different direction.
From
the title literal, I was like, yeah,
different.
You're an asshole if you took attention away from, something that's supposed to be about her. But it sounds like she didn't take the attention away. The family kept taking the attention away.
It sounded like they were haranguing her. And then
and she had a limit.
She had a limit, and then sister was already having a terrible night. Like, she's already crying in the bathroom.
Because to her, it's not that her sister's taking the attention, but like, this is supposed to be a night about her, and her whole family is instead obsessing over when her sister's going to get a boyfriend, when her sister's going to get married. Oh, we thought you were going to get married first.
Fucked up.
Like, her family are the assholes. They're the ones not giving her event the attention it deserves.
I think so. I mean, I think in a perfect world, she would have said, "Why don't we talk about something else or whatever?" But it sounds like it was over and over. And it does definitely look, once we get to the point, before we get to the coming out point, I think the way OP has put it, and I believe their account, the family pretty much solely harangued, repeatedly questioned.
Yeah.
OP.
So have you seen the movie Holiday?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Emma Roberts.
I don't see pun. I try to avoid a pun title movie. That's why I was in for The Flood.
I'm not into stuff like that usually, but this one was just really well done. And her family is like that. Every single holiday and event, they're like harassing her about like, "Oh, why did you stop dating this guy? When are you going to date? Like, hey, you should date this weird clown that your sister knows." Like,
it's always a weird clown.
Yeah. And I'll never understand why families kind of obsess on that, like at a family gathering, I'm used to getting, the casual, just like, "Oh, who are you dating? What happened to so-and-so?" But not a huge discussion.
That's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate. It's like going to a baby shower and having everybody saying like, and if you're a couple that, if you're married to someone and you guys are child free, having everybody like harassing you about when you're going to have a baby. Like, today's not about me. Today is about my sister and her coming child.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think you're right. I've violated this on a totally different layer, but I have done it. I remember one time I went to one of my brother's shows, and one of his friends is a listener, and I kind of brought up the pod, and she actually said, "Hey, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about the pod. Let's stick to your brother's show a little bit." There's a little bit of thunder stealing,
I mean, were you guys waiting for the show to start?
No, it was after the show.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like on a show, you're not going to talk about the show afterwards. Other than you tell the person like, "You did a great job."
But it was kind of like he could have walked in on us talking about my show, which I think is a little bit much. Look, I don't think it's the same.
To me, it sounds like looking for common ground to discuss something with his friends.
Well, thank you for defending me. This has never happened in my entire life. But anyway, I think because I think there's nuance on both sides, right? If you're at a baby shower and someone goes, "When's the baby due?" and they ask one or two questions, that's okay.
Sure.
How are the boys? Whatever.
It's casual conversation.
It's when you're going in on it, you're repeatedly bringing it up, you're asking multiple times, and it's like, but this has been covered ground.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's a shame that OP because it sounds like she's probably been dealing with this her whole life, or at least since she realized that she wasn't going to be dating men anymore.
Yeah.
And I really wish that she could have learned better, change the subject tactics. It would have probably made this interaction and many previous ones a lot smoother. Because if it's something that you're not willing to talk about because you know it's not going to be received well,
right?
Like, you have to know, how do you change that subject? Because otherwise, you're right.
Fair.
Like, if you don't have a proper way to turn the attention, then they're just going to keep asking you because you're not really answering. And it's irritating to people. We're like, that's a non-answer. What's your actual answer? Like,
well, yeah, well, people can also
we're
reject.
Curious.
You can be savvy,
yeah,
you know, but it still get rejected. People see what you're doing, but you're right. I mean,
I get calls all the time from friends, you know, being like, sending me a screenshot of a conversation that they had with somebody. They're like, I don't even know how to respond to this, and I'm like, you tell them, blah 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 blah, and they're like, oh, that's smooth, because it doesn't.
You're good at this? Can I test you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try. I want to just find out your birthday, and you're gonna evade the question. I always forget, how old are you? When is your birthday?
Oh, who can remember anymore? I just, you know, I'm just living life on this planet.
Okay. that did bring me somewhere else. I was like, you might be an alien. That was a weird, you went a really
now
weird way.
Now we're going to go into some existential conversation.
Have you ever had your DNA tested?
Exactly.
Let's read the top comment here. It actually went ESH. Wish I was home, writes ESH. It's not your fault, but you were asked questions. The relatives kept saying stuff that was, 1, taking the shine off your sister, 2, bringing up your dating status. I wish you would have quit drinking when you were getting interrogated. 2, left earlier. I wish you would have come out at a later date. I wish that too. I just don't think I can actually ding on these notes. No, because
she was upset before she came out. Her sister was upset.
Yes.
Like, her night had already been ruined. Like, that was just kind of a cherry on top. And I actually would be kind of glad that she ended up coming out, because even though it wasn't planned, wasn't the way she wanted to do it, it's like, it's got to happen at some point anyway. So if you can take anything away from this, at least you no longer have to hide it anymore.
I also feel like sister was crying and then attacked OP. You've made my engagement all about you. I'm just struggling to ding OP, and everybody drinks at an engagement party, so I'm not ready to ding for that. I'm sorry.
I mean, and it feels like some of this just feels like normal sibling rivalry of always feeling like the other person is getting the attention.
Absolutely.
Because in the opening of the post, she talked about, because she's a lesbian, and her family is homophobic, she's like, I'm never going to have my dad walk me down the aisle. Now, that hits me pretty hard, because my dad passed away this last year. And so he will never walk me down the aisle. And he had been ill, like, you know, back in the early 2000s with something different that had me worried that he wasn't going to make it to my wedding day.
Right.
So, like, this is a thing that is like, it came back up for me. And it's hard, and it sucks. And you know, and I can't wait to have kids. I can't wait to get married, you know, but it hasn't happened yet. And, you know, I've been honest with some of my friends sometimes, like when they're when they're planning their wedding and they're all excited, like,
right.
I wouldn't say I'm jealous. I'm envious. And it makes me a little bit sad, you know, or like when I go to a baby shower. Like, I was a bridesmaid in one of my best friend's weddings this past October. And I was honest with her and our other best friend at the wedding. I said, you know, I'm kind of sad. I'm like, it's so hard to watch you both with your husbands and being so happy. Like, it hurts. Wow. Like, it hurts me. Like, I love you both. I love this amazing world for you guys, but it hurts because I don't have that right now. And I'm like, I just want to let you know that's where I'm at. If I'm a little emotional,
might be
that's
a little too
why.
real, but you're keeping it real.
Well, I mean
you were talking. Can I say your age? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
You know, you're 38, so the time is kind of ticking.
It is. And my friend who was getting married, she's 3 years younger than me, and she was feeling like the time was ticking. And and she and her husband are having a baby this fall. Like, I'm so happy for her. Ahead of me still.
I'm so happy.
All these younger people are so far ahead of me in this part of life. But, you know, my purpose around sharing that with them, that at times the reception was kind of hard on me.
Yeah.
Was so that way I wouldn't bottle those feelings and then them come out in some negative, you know, knee-jerk reaction, like saying something cruel just because, you know, because we do that as a defense mechanism. But if I share what I'm dealing with, I don't need to be defensive about it. Like, everybody can just look at me.
Yeah, they were there with you.
Got it. Like,
you're a bit jelly.
This is a little tough for Amy. Like,
I was jealous of you when you said you had a truck back there. I need a truck. Anyway.
Yeah, my truck is about, it's not as big as the one in front of your building.
Oh my God, these people, guys. You guys don't understand.
Mine's about 6 inches shorter than his.
The people in this building have a religion, and it's parking their truck there. They do not, you know, we have street sweeping.
Yeah.
They do not. They absolutely under zero conditions. No, they move for street sweeping, but they never lose their parking spot. Never. That is their spot. Now, there's nothing dictating that except their own diligence. You got to respect it. Exactly. No, there comes a point where I go, that is your religion. Like, that is what you do, and nobody worships that spot like you.
Yeah, I mean, I came early because I knew I was going to have city parking around here. I'm like, it's going to take me a while to park the truck.
It's a nightmare. No, and now my scooter is broken. I'm in a bind.
Wait, your one wheel?
My one wheel broke. I'm very upset. Yes.
How'd you break your one wheel?
The charger broke, actually. Thank you for asking. Nobody really cares about my precious baby. Webborn 2622 writes, NTA, you weren't the one making it all about you. You weren't. Your family was. Who the F says that someone is more attractive than someone else right in front of the person? That's heinous. For these reasons, honestly, I can't ding OP.
I don't ding the sister either, because she's emotional. This is her party. Like, this sounds like this is bringing up for her, like, painful things from her childhood. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I think everyone here, and I think OP is being basically attacked. It's a compliment, but it also is a form of attack and put on the spot.
And it's putting her in this horrible place with her sister, where it's like every time someone says, you know, that she's better than her sister at something, or that she's prettier than her sister, it adds another brick to the wall between her and her sister.
I think so. AITA for stealing my sister's thunder on her engagement party. I think we're saying NTA. We're giving OP a pass. We're giving the sister a pass, and we're saying NTA on their behalf and YTA to this family who is way out of pocket here.
Yeah, no assholes here for the sisters, and everyone sucks for the family.
Amy, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great to see you.
It's been great to see you as well.
Any parting words?
No, just catch the flood July 14th and catch 3 Days in Malay August 3rd.
Look at you. Well, great to see you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
We welcome Katie S. from upstate New York to the call-in show. Katie, it's great to see you today.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going well. So you were telling me about all his upstate cities and whatnot, and honestly, it was all blur. But one thing stuck with me, Katie, and that is that you work in culverts. You don't hear about culvert very often. And what is a culvert, Katie?
Oh, yeah. I'm in the culvert business. I know culverts intimately through and through, one side or the other. So culverts are, they're basically just carrying a water course, a river, a stream from one side of a road to another. It's really not very interesting, not very exciting.
Well, someone's got to do it. They need water on the other side.
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere, or it's going to go flooding over the roads.
Waters are going there. And so the
ducks are going through.
Absolutely. So you're basically an infrastructure gal.
A little bit, yeah. So I'm not doing the engineering or anything like that, but I do the environmental side of things. So if replacements need to be made to a culvert or repairs, I go out first and I survey the area and kind of map out all the water courses, the riverines in the area, any wetlands. And then we take that into account when we do our permitting and our reporting, and ideally try to avoid wetlands if possible, now that we know where they are. And if that's unavoidable, then we'll take into account the amount of wetlands and kind of work on mitigating that number.
Well, that's great. I mean, we here at this podcast I'm pro-environment, pro wetland. I mean, personally, not a fan. I prefer my land to be dry, maybe snow land, not necessarily all wet and soggy in there. But I think it's great that it's out there. I mean, what kind of critters we got on there besides the obvious, the gators, the crocodiles? What's a standard wetland critter?
Oh, hell yeah. So mosquitoes is the first one that comes to mind.
Again, not a fan, but I respect their place. I think not enough people respect the mosquito. They are workers. They're trying their best, and they're part of the ecosystem too. I don't want to be in it with them, but they are trying.
Here's the thing about wetlands is I love them. They're super ecologically important. We couldn't function without them. But having trekked through days and days and days and days of culverts and wetlands, it's somewhat rough going. It's not the most hospitable to people, with mosquitoes and the muck and such, but they have a certain charm. I just recently saw Baltimore Orioles, which are I've been told they're special birds that everyone likes to see. They're very pretty and orange. So there's another wetland critter for you.
There we go. Good old Oriole. I don't know how you say it, but I do know that that's a sports team. Huh, people? See, they tell me I don't know sports, but I know sports. Sports ball. Exactly. One of the best. Now, you were also telling me, Katie, that you identify as queer.
Yeah,
correct?
Absolutely.
Great. Long pause there, made it weird. That's okay. It wasn't a good, no, it wasn't you, it was me. I asked it weird, but guys, here is the thing. We found a great situation to discuss today. As you guys know, I was raised Catholic. So, we're going to get it right into this. Here we go. AITA for how I suggested my niece deal with homophobia. I'm 35 and I've been out as queer for the last 15 years. My sister, Jess's daughter, Renee, just came out as a lesbian. She's 16, and while her family and friends are accepting, she's had some issues with other people. Jess asked me if I could give her advice on it, and I gave her this advice. Sometimes people will try to debate you on your sexuality. I'd never engage. Even if you win, debating your personhood will eat you up inside. Instead, know this about bigots. Their hate isn't about you. When someone shames another person, they are often coming from a place of deep internal shame, self-restriction, isolation. They see self-denial as a virtue to justify their own self-imposed restriction and resent the person who's in true accord with themselves. They're lonely in a fearful place, having been indoctrinated to fear their fellow man. They're part of churches or organizations that maintain power. If someone tries to argue with you about your sexuality, ask them to reflect on themselves instead. Don't let them debate you. Just keep reminding them what they only have to answer to themselves and to God. I gave her that advice. She listened, felt better hearing that shit. That the shit people are saying about her is not 100% not about her. But stuff got kind of rough when she went back to church next. Oh boy. Apparently one of her dad's friends was giving her the whole love the sinner, hate the sin shit. And she went off, asking him in front of everyone why he was getting so red in the face. Saying that she didn't want to debate her own sexuality, but was concerned about him, that he was so clearly sad and afraid and ashamed that he was putting pain out into the world. And she hoped he'd go home that day and reflect on whether he wanted to go through life letting fear and shame control and isolate him. It made things really awkward and made the guy madder. He got at her saying she didn't know him, and she was like, I don't have to know you to see that. I'll pray for you. Oh, shit.
Wow.
Which, damn, Gen Z is gutsy, and I was proud of her. But my sister was upset. She asked me if I told her daughter to call this guy sad and angry, and I said, yeah, just generally, not about that specific guy. My sister told me she thought I was setting her daughter up for trouble, that the stuff I suggested she say was going to make people angry, and I said those people were already angry. She said that advice wasn't age appropriate and that I should have said more of the love yourself, self-confidence stuff. She wanted her daughter to be safe and worried about her saying that kind of thing. AITA for the advice I gave. It was honestly the best advice I have, but I can see where sister's coming from.
This is interesting to me.
I love the situation. I mean, it is always so telling to me, the emotional vitriol these people have. It's a subject of fascination for me.
I mean, I think the guy's right in totally saying that, their anger and their reactions are not about the sister or queer people in general, but coming from something inside, something they've experienced. I think that's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is exactly. I think part of it could be, obviously there are definitely people who are like, they're homophobic because they're gay, and so there is a self-restriction aspect to it. We got a lot of things from it. Internal shame, isolation. So there could be a million reasons why these people are sort of jealous.
There's a lot to unpack. Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack. Nonetheless, I guess I'm struggling to ding just because I'm like, look, that's what this person offered. And I'm kind of like, I don't necessarily feel that it was the most thoughtful advice. It wasn't really context specific. It was more like, I'm queer and this is my experience and this is what I think. And I think that they were right. I feel like they got 15 years of experience dealing with these people. Is offering, I guess what I'm saying is zooming out and I'm like, well, is offering impractical advice or bad advice when it comes from a good place even potentially asshole-ish? I don't know. I'm struggling to ding. I don't necessarily think it was good advice.
I'm also struggling to ding. I think it was, the way that the niece kind of took it and ran with it did not seem necessarily like what this person intended with their advice. I don't think, the way I'm interpreting what they said, it's not like, I guess they do say, tell them, don't let them debate. I totally agree with some of this stuff. Don't let them debate you. But kind of the more active, like remind them of this, actively tell them these things. I kind of feel like maybe that is getting into dangerous territory. And obviously the niece really experienced that territory when she kind of really, really got into it with this person at church, which, yeah, is maybe not always the best advice for someone to give, and can get you into some hot water. I think, I don't know. But again, like you said, it's coming from a place of long experience and what this person really feels.
I think so. Honestly, I'm kind of like, look, this person is saying something that's pretty shitty. It's pretty crazy. It's actually a pretty crazy thing to tell someone, hey, what you're doing is a sin. God doesn't want you to do that. It's like, what are you really, you're really coming at this hard.
It's lunacy.
It really is. It's just normalized.
I do kind of love the niece's response. Like I kind of, it's one of those things where if I were standing by, I'd like give a little round of applause. Cause that's kind of what we would all want to say in that situation. It's like, I'm worried about you that you're saying these things. I'm a little concerned. Are you okay? And I think that kind of turning the situation around is kind of hilarious. And honestly, like valid. I don't think that's always going to necessarily lead to a healthy or productive conversation. But it was never going to be a good faith conversation from the beginning, is what it sounds like.
No, I don't think so. The best I could do here is say, look, there's occasionally and sometimes and maybe even most people. I don't need to go too hard on this. And like, look, a lot of churches espouse bigoted views. That doesn't mean everyone who goes to church is a bigot. A lot of people are raised religious. They find meaning in it. And, there's plenty of people who are totally fine with gay people and they understand you don't need to go running around, telling people that it's a sin or something like that or whatever it may be. Like, and I want to express that nuance because I do think that this person is also in the wrong. And I think, even if you do think this shit and you actually do think it's a sin, how dare you? How dare you go around and say that? Who do you think you are? It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's just completely none of their business. It's none of anyone's business. I think there's no question that this other person is the asshole. This person at church, 100%.
I'm ready to throw a ding at maybe an unexpected party here. The sister, right? The sister is the mother of the niece, right? She's coming at OP.
Yeah.
She's coming at OP for giving bad advice. Hey, why do you have your daughter allegedly this is for her safety, right? Isn't that what she said? That's what she said, right? She wanted her daughter to be safe.
She wanted her daughter to be safe.
Well, then why do you have her surrounded by a bunch of people that are trying to shame her for her sexuality? It sounds like you've put your daughter in an unsafe situation to an extent. I'm not using the word safe, but the irony is that she's indicting herself by saying that daughter made her unsafe by expressing herself. Well, she shouldn't be unfucking safe. She should be allowed to say whatever she wants. She didn't attack anyone. She didn't say anything. What did the sister, what did the daughter ultimately say? I'll pray for you? Oh.
Yeah.
You know?
Horrors.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat telling, and maybe this is conspiracy town here, but the thing that the sister said about this advice not being age appropriate, I find is concerning. It kind of gets into that territory where any topics of LGBT concerns or experiences are considered not age appropriate in a lot of spaces, and I think that's really harmful for, everyone, but especially anyone who identifies as LGBTQ or queer. It's the idea that being queer is somehow not age appropriate, somehow inherently sexualized, and I don't think I just don't agree with that. That's obviously not the case. And I don't see anything else in this person's advice that would be considered not age appropriate to me. Do you see anything?
No, not remotely. I think you could be right. I don't necessarily read it that way. I think what the mother here is doing, what the sister is doing is saying it's not age appropriate because she didn't like how this led to conflict at school. So she was saying, just be self-confident, say some bullshit, basically is what she's advocating, because now my daughter is stirring the pot at her Catholic school. And this is causing an issue, but I think you're right. I thought this, the worst thing I can say about OP is they should have said, you might want to consider keeping the peace. But I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know if I would feel comfortable saying that. It feels gross just saying it, like, hey, you might want to consider just shutting the total fuck up if it could fuck up your shit with your school. Just totally zip it. Like, I honestly kind of feel like this advice was pretty appropriate, and I don't really feel like, okay, it was a dad's friend. Okay, you know what? Now, it wasn't even at school. I misunderstood. It was a dad's friend. How dare you? That is disgusting. A grown man telling a woman about her sexuality. That's so fucking weird. That is so weird. Imagine that it was that she was into having anal sex. How insane that is. You keep your mouth the fuck away from a little girl's genitals, you fucking animal. That's not okay. That wouldn't be okay that is just a wildly inappropriate conversation. You're right. It's none of your business.
100%.
Insane.
I don't know where this entitlement to inject your opinions into someone else's life comes from, but I hate it and it's gross.
It's why, that just clicked in for me. Something just clicked in because I'm like, God, can you imagine if a father, hey, I heard you had anal sex, that's sodomy. What are you doing, man? What the fuck? And I'm realizing it's literally the same thing. And the only reason it's normalized is because controlling women is just part and parcel with most religions. Again, not all people, but tends to be part of the dogma. It does.
I think that definitely plays a part.
This really just is so inappropriate. I don't need to go full, I feel like some people can be a little black and white on this, but I'm ready to ding mom. I think she should have had her daughters back. Hey, yeah, your dad's friend shouldn't be talking about you.
Oh, yeah. The fact that the mom's reaction to hearing about that circumstance is not to immediately be like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that to you. And is instead to come for this other person who gave advice. I don't understand that at all.
I'm dinging on that note. Wildly inappropriate. To be fair, maybe I'm slightly misreading it because it does say love the sinner, hate the sin. And I'm slightly more comfortable if it was strictly in the abstract. You know what I mean? If he was like, I know some people here are experimenting with homosexuality, and I wanted to say the church has particular views on this sin. I don't like it, but it's not as utterly it's not inappropriate in the exact same way because it's not touching on her particular actions or her particular sexuality. But the fact that he was getting red in the face to me is emotionally inappropriate. And that's telling. That's personal.
Yeah, he was clearly very emotionally invested in this conversation with this ostensibly young person. It's not as though, we're talking about the I don't know things about religion. I'm sorry, I wasn't raised religious.
That's so great.
The person who leads, is that the priest?
Yeah.
Whoever's leading the discussion.
For Catholics, yeah, he runs the mass. Yeah.
I think it'd be one thing if, kind of, as you were saying, that person up in front of the audience was saying, we have these views on homosexuality or whatever. I think in kind of this abstract way, like you were saying, that would be one thing. But when it's a very direct, personal, somewhat attacking way that this man came at this girl, got red in the face and, telling her things, his opinions on her life, her choices, her sexuality, that's just so unbelievably inappropriate on so many levels. It's just none of his business. It doesn't really matter.
It didn't even need to be sexuality. That's a really good point. It could have just been like whatever, it could have been her.
You vape, like, and I don't like it. It's like, it's not your business.
It's just a weird thing to do as the dad's friend. Inappropriate. Nonetheless, I am digging mom. AITA for how I suggested my niece deal with homophobia. I'm saying NTA and the mother and this guy are.
I agree with that.
Katie, it's been great to meet you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and good luck in those wetlands.
Thank you so much. We're heading back out next week. I'll be listening to the pod on the drive out.
Love it. Say hi to the Baltimore Royals for me. Sports ball out. Hey guys, this is a disclaimer because I received some valid criticism on our Patreon regarding some of my statements and the overall analysis of the following situation. Hence, I will follow it with some new learnings and insights from our community. We welcome Regina from Corvallis, Oregon to the call-in show. What's up, Regina George from Mean Girls?
Never heard that one before, Danny. Yeah, I'm doing great today. It's an overcast day in Corvallis, but at least it's not 1,000,000 degrees like it was a couple weeks ago.
Now, you were being sarcastic there, right? You have gotten that joke millions of times, the Regina
Millions
reference.
Of times. It was one of my best Halloween costumes, actually, when I was about 18. So
Regina for me, it's a classy name. It's a rich girl name. Now you are talking to me from your closet, so rich doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, no, it is a rich girl name. And that's not who I am, but I didn't pick it. Yeah, I really hated it when I was a kid, actually, because my all my classmates made a whole thing of it being the meaning being Queen. There was a day when we all looked up the meaning of our names for class, and mine was Queen. And you would think that this would you would think this would be a good thing for my clout in first grade, but actually 8-year-olds are vicious, and it was not a good thing for my clout at all. So I didn't use it for a long time. But
now, you were telling me you're finishing up your PhD in soil.
I am.
So you are actually a dirty girl, literally a dirty girl.
No, I literally am. I'm not a rich girl.
You're an urchin of dirt.
I'm an urchin of dirt. I'm a doctor. I will soon be a doctor of dirt. I've actually passed my PhD defense, so we can say that I'm Dr. Dirt now.
I love that for you, Dr. Dirt. Now, the way you brought this in was you said there's a lot of critters in there and stuff. I gotta be honest with you. It's a hard sell to make soil interesting, but I'm gonna give you a shot. Give us the juiciest juice you can muster.
Okay, yeah, it is hard to make dirt interesting because you can't see most of the stuff that's going on. Like 99% of microbes that live in the soil, so your bacteria, your fungi, 99% of the time we cannot see them, and we don't really know what they're doing specifically, or individuals. So it's a tough problem, but the practical reason you should care is that soil has more carbon in it than anything else in the living terrestrial biomass. So it has more than all the vegetation on land and the atmosphere combined. So it's a lot of carbon. and it's a very active pool of carbon. It's moving around a lot. And so that means that it has an important influence on our on climate. So understanding what's going on with soil carbon, understanding what all the little critters are doing in there, because they can affect carbon, can help us understand what's going to happen with climate change, understand how bad it's going to be, or perhaps model the response to certain other changes better. So that's a really important practical reason you should care. But there's also lots of interesting interactions that are going on. So one that you might have heard of that gets into popular media a lot is that trees form symbioses with fungi in the soil called mycorrhizae. And so the mycorrhizae they're little fungi. They have little hyphae-like threads that they're made of, and those are very, very good at getting into little bits of broken rock, grabbing nutrients, pulling in extra water. So that mycorrhizae can go and grab extra nutrients from the soil that plant roots are not as good at getting, send it back to the plants, and in return, the plants, which can photosynthesize, turn CO2 into sugar, can send some of that sugar down to the fungi as kind of a repayment. So there's this trade-off going on.
I relate with the fungi so much here because I got these protein bars.
Do you?
I love man, I love these protein bars. They're my favorite. They're my favorite, and they're made by Gatorade, which is also kind of funny to me because I'm like, Gatorade, what are you doing in the protein bar section? And today I look at them and I noticed they have half your daily saturated fat and 24 grams of sugar, and I was like, Gatorade, you motherfuckers, this is not healthy at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how much exercise you're doing before that. Like, because if you're going on a run, you like running, right?
I do, yeah. I don't.
Yeah, if you've gone on a however many mile run and you go and eat a bunch of sugar, or you eat that and then you go on a run, you're just burning off the sugar. Is it that big of a deal?
Not that big of a deal.
I'm not a nutritionist.
I have a lot of fungi
I'm not a real doctor
that I'm working with as well. You are a real doctor. You're Dr. Dirt, and Dr. Dirt. Thanks for joining us because we're going to be covering some academia lore here. So here we go. AITA for calling my professor unprofessional for manipulating my timetable, so I'm taught by him. I'm 18M, just started uni for the first time. It's been 2 weeks since teaching started. Our class for one of the core subjects has about 40 people, niche degree, so it's split into 2 tutor groups that have tutorials separately. that is a tongue twister. 2 tutor groups tutorials separately. And we all have practicals together. Now, one group is led by the main professor who runs the practicals, and the other one's led by a female grad student who also comes to the practicals and helps the professor. The cohort is the 38 boys and 2 girls. As we were leaving our first practical this week, my course mate said something like, "Oh, I hope the grad student will run classes as well as professor." Another mate said that he's read some of the grad student's experiment outlines and that she's really good at this niche area. Just casual talk. So as a kind of joke, I replied that I hope I get put in the grad students group because she was really hot and I'd love some one-on-one sessions with her. You know, just riffing off how you can do one-on-one tutorials. It was a joke. I'm not saying it was a good thing to say. But you'd be lying if you didn't admit you never found someone teaching you attractive. I made sure she wasn't in earshot, but the professor was, and he gave me a nasty look, which was fair. I get home and found out to my joy I was in her class, but the next day I got a notification that my timetable changed, and now I'm in the class run by the professor. I thought it was just an ordinary switch for technical reasons and didn't care, but after the first tutorial, the professor asked me to stay back and told me the reason he reassigned me to his group was because of the unacceptable comments. It turns out she was his student, she works in his project, and he probably felt protective. He started giving me a lecture about how it was, quote, completely unacceptable to make those types of comments about staff in a public teaching space. We were exiting a lecture hall. I apologized, but said he was unprofessional for switching my class for a joke and that the joke wasn't even that bad since she was only a few years older than us anyway. My justification is if you're a young TA teaching in a heavily male environment, you learn to ignore comments from idiotic joker blokes like us. I'm not proud of this, but I accused him of white knighting for her and that she wouldn't have even known if he hadn't told her. So he was the person who made her uncomfortable. He then said I was the one who needed to learn to behave like I'm at a reputable university and told me he would report me if I said anything like that in front of him again. My friends agree with me, but when I mentioned it to my sister, she took his side. Which one of us is the asshole?
You know, what I'll say right off the top is this, I hope, is a learning experience for OP. I guess my instinct is not to come that hard for OP for this. If we, on first read at least, if I accept that, you know, he is just joking and he wouldn't have gone farther than this and wouldn't have been this type of guy in the class, then I hope this is an 18-year-old who learns to not make these comments in the future.
I mean, what type of guy? I don't find this comment to be harmful at all. If he made it around her, I would say, well, yeah, now you're sexualizing her to her face, which is obviously not appropriate. But like, you made this joke to the boys. She's a hot woman. She's in a position of authority, also hot. You know, she's teaching you. You're learning from her. Like, you know, which is one of the reasons why this relationship would be, you know, probably unethical from her side. Yet another reason to not make a joke like this. But like, I guess I'm just kind of like, you know, am I mad at someone for calling someone else hot and then making like a shitty pun of like, I'd like some one-on-one time with her? Like, you know, if he made it in front of her, then yeah, I'd be like, well, dude, you're being an asshole. That's not respectful to the tenor of the class. But like, I mean, don't women make comments like this tuu sometimes? Am I wrong here?
I mean, yeah, probably. I think the frequency is lower. It's a little bit less.
Okay, that's fair.
In our culture. And and we definitely don't make comments like this like straight out of the lecture hall, because this is more of a wine night type of comment. Wine night, never gonna say it in a public building kind of comment.
Got it.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think that the comment isolated is that harmful, especially out of the lecture hall to the guys. He's not saying it to the grad student. I think where the professor's coming from is, I don't want to get into a slippery slope argument, but I guess there's kind of a slippery slope calculation that happens for at least for women when you start to hear these types of comments, because sometimes these comments are a pretty innocuous joke, like not super appropriate, but a one-off and nothing like truly like violent or anything.
It wasn't violent. It wasn't objectifying. You know, it was a pun.
Nothing else is going to come for it.
You know, it was a pun.
Sometimes,
go ahead.
Sometimes this can be an early warning set. Sometimes it can turn out to be like an early warning sign.
It was inappropriate. It was inappropriate for him to say it. Yeah.
Totally. And I'm guessing that's maybe where this professor is coming from, in hearing this and going like, oh, no, not this again. And maybe he's extrapolating too far, but we have this thing, he probably felt protective of her. So I mean,
I think why I don't like what the professor did is like, I'm sorry, but this is not something that you pass along. I do agree with you that it's something to go in on. I think I would have said, young man, I understand that you might be making these jokes with your friends, but you need to realize you practice poor judgment by doing this here where I can hear you. I don't want to hear stuff like that. Obviously, I don't believe it's the same thing, but I don't want you to make any comments like that to her. That's not appropriate. That's just not appropriate for this environment. So get it straight and don't talk about the other professionals here and your fellow, classmates like that. To me, that would have been more than reasonable. And also, if he had taken him out of the other class, I would have been like, well, bro, you were hitting on her publicly, and so he wanted to prevent a problem. But to go and tell her, I'm just kind of like, tell her what?
So, do we know? So I was wondering about that actually, because OP says that she wouldn't have even known if he hadn't told her. But I'm wondering if we even know that he definitely did tell her. Because the professor says that he reassigned me to his group because of the unacceptable comments I made about the grad student in front of the professor. I wonder if he even actually told her. I agree. I don't think the professor should have passed this along to the grad student. I hope he didn't.
I'm reading, playing it as it lays. I think he says my justification, if you learned, I'm not proud of this, but I accused him of white knighting for her and that she wouldn't even have known if he hadn't told her. So he was the one who made her uncomfortable. And, you know, if I guess that's the thing, is that I'm like, which is really worse? This guy basically making a joke that he thinks she's hot and wants one-on-one time with her, which, by the way, I think is like within the bounds of acceptable, like, punnery. Like, if he had said, I want to fuck her, I'd be like, dog, rein it the fuck in, you animal. But, like,
you can't say this in a lecture hall.
Exactly. But, you know, he said, I want one-on-one time with her. He was playing the game. It was a good pun. It, you know, it was an acceptable flirtation. And by the way, if you wrote that out in a text message or something, you know, you wouldn't have any evidence on this guy. He'd be like, what? I said I want a one-on-one time with her. That's something that is done in the tutoring process, right? So, like, he was kind of riding the line. I feel like it was kind of actually a low-key, almost acceptable flirt that you could get away with. And then the question is this professor then leveraging this? And that's the white knight aspect. And that's really the only reason I have the inclination to be on OP's side. Because I'm like, that's another thing, too, when guys are like, yeah, they were saying that. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. You think she's hot, too, motherfucker. What's wrong? Like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is not really that bad of an isolated comment. I wonder if there is some context that we can read into some of the comments in this post that might explain why this professor went so hard, because he did go really hard for the comment that it was. I agree with you. He could have, you know, gone in a lot gentler and not acted like this guy did something way worse than he did.
Right. There's only one comment that OP made. He writes, negative 5,000 upvotes, by the way. I didn't make a single sexist comment or even comment on her body. She's objectively good looking, and if I saw her in public, it would have been treated as a compliment. I'd not have said it to her face, even if I was in her class. It would have just been an in-joke. That's all he wrote.
All right. I like how he got negative 5,000 downvotes for that comment.
Decimated.
Nobody likes this man. So one sentence I could pull out of this last paragraph, my justification is if you're a young TA teaching in a heavily male environment, you learn to ignore comments from idiotic joker blokes like us. And, you know, I would say that's true, that, yeah, you probably do. You probably get this type of thing a lot. So that makes me wonder, we know that this is a heavily male environment. We know this is some field that there's really not that many women in, probably not very many female grad students if we're based on this heavily male environment. And this grad student probably does have to ignore comments like this all the time. And I wonder how much of that the professor has heard and how much of it has been idiotic, innocuous comments, like kind of like this joke, and how much of it has been a little bit more serious. And, you know, that's not OP's. OP is not to know that, you know, he's not going to know the full context for this. I guess I'm just trying to understand where this professor has come in reacting so strongly to a single comment.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the only issue I have with what the professor, I think the professor reacted correctly. Look, I think this was a conversation, and I like that the professor had the conversation. I think that was important. Yeah. You know, and I think everything he said was true. I think this was ultimately an inappropriate thing to say. The context to me is a little relevant. I mean, it sounds like they were leaving the lecture hall, but still, it showed a lack of judgment. It's like, well, yeah, you need to go a little farther than leaving try leaving campus, motherfucker, if you're gonna say stuff like that.
Keep your voice down.
Yeah, exactly. Whisper, you fool. You know, but like, the idea that he told her is just the only really ding that I'm like, what is this guy really doing? Is he trying to manipulate some kind of situation? But like, I do think it's inappropriate. I think it would be inappropriate in any context, and it would just be worse if, you know, in this situation where like it's comp sci or something and everyone's a fucking guy and she's the one girl. It's like, well, yeah, dude, I'm hot, but I don't want to talk about how I'm hot. I want to talk to you about ChatGPT or whatever the fuck, you know, like, or soil. Yeah, you know,
I've got to grade your shitty coding assignment that you did. I don't care if you think I'm hot. I don't want to hear about it.
I guess the reason I understand OP's plight is because, you know, I don't think this is a harmful thing. And I think, you know, people in the comments, the top comment says, YTA, can you really not see it? She doesn't have to putting up with sexist bullshit from you. And I'm like, you know, I understand that, like, facilitating a safe environment for women means not bringing up if they're hot, but I don't think calling someone hot is sexist. So, like, I just feel like there's some nuance here. Like, this person was not being sexist. They were not exercising judgment. They weren't thinking about how it's probably pretty challenging to be a hot woman in a male-dominated field, or to be a hot woman in a, you know, in any position where you have a lot of students. I mean, you're gonna have to deal with these comments, and they're just not really relevant to what you're there to do, which is not fuck people, but rather talk about whatever it may be that you teach. It's annoying.
Yeah. It could sound like, it sounds like maybe this was a not very sexist comment that was made in a sexist environment, and that is where things are getting escalated.
I love that. It was like effectively sexist, but it didn't come from a sexist place. I can be comfortable with that. That feels far more reasonable to me.
Yeah, you could, like, if we flip the genders, a female student could make this inappropriate comment, and it would still be inappropriate. It would still be kind of an out-of-pocket joke that did not need to happen in a lecture hall. But I think there wouldn't be like the kind of concern for safety that I think that this professor is feeling, and there probably wouldn't be as strong of a reaction. I mean, we don't know. Maybe this.
Well, yeah, because it's so rare. I mean, there's a dozen reasons why it just wouldn't be the same. But it would still be inappropriate, but it wouldn't be the same because, well, mainly just because, you know, it's probably happened a lot.
It's probably happened a lot. And I mean, I just can't go that hard on an OP who's 18 years old. Like, this is, you know, a chance to learn, like, there are more appropriate places to say this, or like places to say this that are not going to get you in this kind of trouble. And this is a great age to learn to knock that shit off.
Exactly. Well put. I'm not going to be able to land any real dings on the professor either. I don't think there's strong enough evidence to think this was like something he was trying to leverage. It sounds like this is someone he's worked with before. He didn't like the comment. He was upfront about it. He took measures to solve it. And basically what OP was doing was trying to attack the professor's credibility. He failed to land any serious blows. And it's an understandable defensive impulse because, and I'm happy you gave him that grace as well. Like, he wasn't expressing anything. Like, God, I think he knew that had he said, like, oh, she has great boobs, like, okay, kill yourself. But, like, he didn't say anything like that. He said she was attractive. AITA for calling my professor unprofessional, for manipulating my timetable so I'm taught by him. Ultimately, we're giving some slight grace, but I think this is a full bore YTA nonetheless.
I'll give YTA and a little bit of some understanding, because
he's 18.
He's 18. If God help me if some of the stuff I said at 18 came on AITA.
Oh my God. I was a huge asshole at 18. Oh my, that was a nightmare.
For sure. Yeah.
So that was a conversation Regina and I had some time ago, and I wanted to add in some comments from our Discord community. Elise writes, it's legitimately part of his job to maintain appropriate conduct in his classroom. Joe wrote, the professor has probably seen it before. Women get belittled all the time in male-dominated fields. Hannah wrote, I got ick at the constant justification of him being young and it not being quote-unquote that bad. And let me just say, I think I was. One-on-one time does have this kind of ambiguity, which I respect as a comedian. It has like this fullness of plausible deniability to it that I don't know, part of me sees that there. But I have to admit, Elise writes, the pun in I'd like to spend some one-on-one time with her is, quote, I would like to fuck her. And I agree that no reasonable person would have taken this statement as anything but a bestial assertion, and this boy was being a pig boy. He was, okay? The allegations also that the professor is white knighting, I think, reveal an extremely porn brain worldview where men only do good things for women to have sex with them, which is ridiculous, and those charges won't stick. So I hope this covers any objections or complaints that you may have had, because I do think I missed the mark here, and sometimes I miss the mark, folks. And I would appreciate any further feedback you have, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful little week.